Hello, welcome back for another season to the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host Alex, and with me I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, pretty good. It's been an eventful off season, personally. So, with this one here,
Yeah.
um, yeah, pretty keen to get the season underway and sort of get back into it.
Now, of course, your little one was named after a very loyal, dedicated, long-serving Hull City player who is absolutely geared up and ready to go for the new season. Of course, didn't you?
Um, we we chose a name that just happened to coincide with the name of a now former City player.
Yes. Was it literally
Um,
like the day or two after that he became a
pro-
former player?
Probably. Um, but
Anyway,
the same thing happened with our first child. Is that he also has a name of former player slash manager, and it wasn't long after he arrived that they departed. So, I'm a good run of form. So if you fall in love with a player and I'm having another kid, just remind me not to name it that.
I'm thinking of Volta for my next kid. What do we think about Volta? No? Any
I
takes?
think you say. I think you should be safe with that one. I mean, you might curse us and he might come back.
Might come back. That's right. Well, look, I mean, we can address the elephant in the room of the big event that took place over the pre-season with the club first up. Of course, my appearance on Mastermind here in Australia, which was was no. It was a good effort. It was very depressing actually posting the clip of that on our YouTube account and seeing it get something like, I don't know, 5,500 views within a couple of days, and I was like, well, yeah, podcast episode's getting about 200 views. It's a little bit of a difference in hopefully a bit of viewer retention from that clip seeps through. But no, in all seriousness, obviously. A few things off the pitch to probably touch on first up with financial sanctions. I think the appeal's happening tomorrow in the UK, so who knows? I think there's a whole lot still up in the air. I guess we'll touch on it broadly. I guess it'll all play out over the next few weeks anyway. But I guess what was your take on that situation as it unfolded?
Um, it was pretty troubling. Um, I mean, I guess, sort of in the background of my thoughts, I was kind of aware that, we had spent, a fair amount of money over the last couple of years, and that were flirting with, danger in that regard. But I guess, what eventuated was probably not what I was expecting. I probably was expecting more, just like sort of financial fair play, sort of a sanction thing. But this ended up within that, but it was non-payment of loan payments or something, like just a weird other thing that got flagged that got us in trouble. So, um, I guess it'd be really interesting. I haven't really paid attention to the fan forums and things that have been held where Jun's spoken publicly or to some of these points, but it'd be interesting to see, or about what actually sort of went on with these. I know, he said, oh yeah, we got the money, we're just about to pay it, but why was it so late? Was it part of some greater ploy? Was it delayed because I know there were ongoing negotiations with one of those players about trying to bring him back, and but that didn't eventuate, and it's all very strange. But I don't know. It's a weird one. I think, yeah, whenever you get in it, because it's obviously serious. Regardless, they're not, AFL's not handing out sanctions just for the fun of it. So it is concerning in that regard. Despite, I guess, Ajun's assurances that, you know he's got heaps of money, but the club, and when the club needs it, he'll make the injections or whatever. But because I feel like that's sort of, I don't always want to hark back to former ownerships, but it sort of was the same sort of thing. They were like, well, we've got money, the club's losing money, and we'll put in until they didn't want to anymore.
Yeah,
And
and I think that the weirdest part as well is the fact that it's like he has the money when it's almost like you're sitting there with like your power bills due, and you're kind of like, well, I've got the money to pay it, but I'll wait till the absolute last possible second to pay it, or until they cut the power before I actually pay it. And it's just like, well, yes, you might have the cash, but is it are you that hard pressed for the cash that you kind of have to hang on to it for that long that you know where's he pulling the cash from in Turkey in order to pay this Louis Barry fee, which, you know, he settled as soon as it was called out as an issue. He paid the Finn Burns amount as soon as it was an issue. But you think, okay, so he does physically have the cash, but then you look at the Chef Wednesday situation where they're in a much, much, much worse situation than us, where the players are leaving and wages aren't getting paid. But you just have to worry about, are we, as you say, like, we're sustainable until we're not. And it's, you know, we have the money if the owner puts it in, but once the owner stops putting in, where does that leave us? And I sort of raised it on the preview I did with the To Hull and Back boys, where you think, when you take that step back and you go, okay, so the EFL had us under sanctions, they were reviewing all the deals, they put a wage cap on us to make us sustainable. Why is that not just the standard state of play across the whole division? Why do they not, maybe they just don't have the capacity to do it, but why are they not sitting there going, we're going to check your financials, we're going to tick off each deal as they come through for each club, and to say, in order for you to be sustainable, you are unable to operate beyond this threshold. And it seems the only obvious answer for why they won't do that is, oh, well, it would, you know, limit the spending in the league and it would limit who can actually challenge for the league. And you go, yeah, well, maybe that's the case. Maybe clubs just financially can't compete at a certain level and shouldn't be allowed to jeopardize themselves. And we're talking a little bit about the transfer business we've done and actually how good it's ended up being. But it sort of shows you don't necessarily need to spend, you know, bundles of cash to actually have a good window.
Yeah, I think obviously the windows ended up a lot more positive than what I guess like we were all thinking and fearing when all the embargoes and things were placed on us. But yeah, look, finances are weird. I don't really know what the answer is in regards to that. I guess like Ajun's got to just chase some more financial partnerships for the club to cover that. I think he said it was about $500,000 like cash flow or something. Like there was an issue where there was quite a large gap in the finances. So, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like if the EFL has all this oversight that they can identify these issues, why are they not like stepping in before they become issues, or at least like being like, you know, no, telling clubs and going like, hey, like you're playing, you know, dangerously financially here at the moment. If this doesn't work, if you don't get promotion, then, you know, next season we might have to talk about like, you know, you're gonna have to reduce your thing or something like, and then at least club, you know, people know, they go, okay, well if I make the push this year and it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to like really like cut
which is
wages
what I
or
thought we
whatever
did last season. Like you look at the fact we sold Philogene and Greaves, and you sort of think that was us cutting our cloth, and then. And I thought I remember Tan at one of the Q&As saying, like, you know, the EFL has to ratify all the deals because they don't want us being just a couple of crazy Turks ruining the club or whatever. And then it seemed as if that was for the first, 2 years of the ownership. And then the EFL went, okay, we trust you guys now, took the training wheels off, and we immediately stacked the bike, so to speak. It seems almost as if as soon as they took the eyes off the ball, we stuffed up.
But it's really because it feels like we've been really busy in every window since Ajun came. Like we're always making bucket loads of signings, and so it's really, I don't know, it's all very strange. But hopefully it's all settled down, and hopefully, you know, the appeal ends up positive. I think there's a couple of big things to happen, but they seem to have been ratified. Well, the word is some of those deals have been ratified by the EFL already, regardless of the outcome of this appeal. So
that's right. It sounds as if Zorro plays here saying the next 48 hours can be crazy news day. Gelhardt, McBurney finding out our fate tomorrow with the EFL. You think there's also, is it Akintola, I think is his name, the winger that's apparently had his work permit approved. There's a whole lot of water to go under the bridge. We'll maybe segue that into on the field signings that we've made, a promising sort of window from that perspective. Maybe start with the manager, might be the place to start. You know, the picture or the spokesperson, I suppose, for this episode with his picture on the podcast episode. Sergei Yakirovich, coming in from Turkey, has managed in a couple of other leagues as well. Really strong win percentage everywhere he's been, just about. I think you can kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, depending on, you know, what league they've managed in. It's like sort of saying, you know, Ange had a good record in Scotland. You go, well, it's only really two teams up there. But it comes in with good pedigree in that sense. Good sort of winning culture. Went to Turkey and took over a club that I think wasn't able to make a single signing, and really took them from like a relegation place to mid-table essentially. I think the flinch reaction is always skepticism around a manager brought in from Turkey and Izajun just sort of throwing a dart at the wall sort of thing. But it's been a really positive pre-season. It feels like sort of chalk and cheese with last summer, where you've got the players really seeming to buy into what he's trying to do. Seems to be getting on well with the fans as well, playing a good style of football as well. What are your thoughts? I guess maybe separating the two elements of obviously Sayers going and the frustration around going through that all again, but then drawing a line and saying, okay, well, where do we stand with Jakirovic and how do we feel with him in charge going into the new season?
Yeah, I think I think a winning record, it I think is always good, and I think that what made me at least a little bit optimistic or hopeful about his appointment once it was made was that he was consistently, like, has a similar winning percentage in sort of all the leagues, all the teams that he's managed. Like, he's been reasonably successful, and seems to be able to get his players on side, get them working for him, playing good football, getting results. In some big games as well, which has been, I think, a big thing for us in the last few years. He's been handling pressure moments, and he had some, I think, in his history, some big playoff games and things like that for Champions League qualification or things like that. So I think those sorts of things bode well. And as you say, when you look at last season and the preseason and the frustration with players not, even being very outspoken about not really knowing what it was that Walter wanted from them. And then here where you're going, well, we've gone 6 or 7 games through the preseason unbeaten, got 2 draws and 5 wins or something like that. It's a very positive.
It's a good result.
Yeah, a very positive start. And hopefully, that confidence, is going to carry over into the season. We can get a nice start to the season. I'm kind of holding judgment until we see those competitive matches played, but I think it's a really positive start, certainly, because I think, like, as even though preseason doesn't really mean too much apart from really getting that fitness, but confidence, I guess, is the other thing that you can really take out of that. And you'd have to say the players would feel pretty confident about what's happening there. Good to see a few of the young guys, making their mark in preseason. Some of the new signings making their mark in preseason. I think the Man City loanee and Ndala, came off the bench, got an assist real quick the other day. So good signs. I think all around it seems like a really positive preseason. I haven't been able to see a single minute of it, but I think I guess when it was 5 wins in a row at one point in preseason, I think that obviously that can't really be overstated too much.
Yeah, and as Sorrow players are saying here, I think it's that style of football. I think to your point, it's not so much the results necessarily as the style, it's the confidence. It's the fact that even if we have a negative start in terms of results in competitive games, I don't think there's the same negativity or panic, or like, it's not as if we're going to see supporters immediately getting on Jakirovic's back, because he has this now almost, as much as it's just preseason, it's that set of results people go, okay, like, we can see that it does work. We can see what he's trying to do. It might not be playing out on the pitch just yet because we're getting all these new players in or whatever it might be. Give it time. Whereas under Volta, you're going, well, it wasn't working in preseason. The players weren't buying in. Can't understand what he's trying to do. And so it was much easier or much quicker for people to turn on him.
Yeah, I think the other point is, players like Giles, Drame, some of those guys who were very fringe last year, have seem to have come back into the preseason with some newfound confidence, some optimism, and I guess that is down to Jakirovic and him sort of instilling that sort of positivity and belief in that squad. So I think we all know that what Giles is capable of, as an example, but he's really failed to deliver over the last couple of seasons, and maybe with this much more positive, sort of attacking style, or positive style of play that we can get, a little bit more out of him. And while it seemed it was disappointing to lose both Maka and Jones, to have Ajayi and who else did we get in the backs? So like three centre backs.
Famewo.
Yeah,
from
yeah. So I think they seem to have, obviously Hughes is there as the sort of the new club mainstay in their backs, but he seems to be picking up where he left off last season with a lot of confidence and a lot of control and leadership in their back. I think he was even captain for one of those preseasons. So
yeah. Jez
is asking.
Jez is just asking, anyone know how ticket sales are going? I think I saw that for the Coventry game, it's about was it 15,500 or 16,000 seats sold or allocated out, because obviously with memberships versus on the day sales, whatever. Plus obviously you'll have 2,000 or something, 1,500 for Coventry supporters. So by the time we get to match day, I'd say you're looking close to sort of 18,000, 19,000 perhaps, which I think with all things considered is actually like a really good reflection on how pre-season's gone, because I think it could have really gone quite poorly with home form has been awful for a long time. Prices have gone up a touch as well for memberships. Then with all of these financial issues, you could have seen a lot of people starting to turn their back on Ajuin in the club. So for Jakirovic to sort of turn things around somewhat, I think is actually really positive. And I think we'll talk Coventry at the end of the episode, but if it's anywhere near a decent performance against Coventry, I think we'll see a lot of belief and optimism. We'll talk. You touched on a couple of them there, so we'll talk players that we've brought in so far. There's a few more names that may be through the door in the next 24 hours, as Sora was alluding to. But in terms of confirmed signings, Phillips joining from Rotherham as a backup goalkeeper. I don't think there's too much to say about that one. But then Ajayi and Famewo is coming in as centre backs. Ajayi is the interesting one, like you touched on there. Initially, it seemed as if he was coming in as backup for Egan and Hughes, but it seems as if over the course of pre-season, he's really sort of earned or staked his spot as a starting centre back alongside Hughes, which is really interesting. I think given his threat from set pieces and actual ability to score some goals from set pieces, it's good to see some players coming into the side now who actually, when we get a corner, there's actually a chance that we might score a goal from it.
Yeah, I think that's obviously been a weakness. We've been horrible off set pieces for the last few seasons, so it would be good to have someone who can take advantage of those opportunities when they come up, because I think you can see they're the crucial moments, and when we have been so poor in front of goal over the last few years in open play, then you go, well, set pieces is where you have to be at least making up for that a little bit, and we've been probably even poorer from set pieces. So.
Yeah, you touched on before Ndala coming in from City on loan. I think he's 19, first senior football, really. I don't think he's played too much before. He did join Forest in January, but I think he just went into their academy setup, so didn't make a move there. Enes Destan coming in from Trabzonspor on a permanent deal, and then Lundstrom coming in from the same club on a loan deal. Lundstrom probably the most eye-catching of the signings this summer so far. Very experienced championship midfielder, big-bodied, that almost that perfect midfielder that we've been calling out for a long time now. To really, I guess, lead the line, so to speak, in that midfield setup, and really sort of, I guess, alongside someone like a Crooks, you think actually makes that midfield look quite strong, quite physical.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting, the players that we've been able to nab, who are sort of a mix of some creativity, some flair, some youth with some serious championship experience, and the likes of Lundstrom, the likes of McBurney, if I'm sort of still waiting for the signatures to be put pen to paper, but guys like that, where you go, well, we know they've been here, they've done it before, are pretty promising. And if you get those done without transfers as well, like without transfer fees, that's a pretty impressive piece of maneuver, I guess, piece of business in the market. So.
Yeah, so with Akintola, McBurney, and now potentially Gelhardt as well. Only breaking news in the last couple of hours, really, from Baz that I keep saying, goodness, I say Lundstrom, that Gelhardt potentially joining on loan from Leeds. I can't quite work out how that deal works from a Leeds perspective. He's in the last year of his deal. We can't pay a loan fee. His Premier League wage is almost certainly going to have to be subsidised by Leeds. Perhaps we're paying the full wage, and that's the only way I can see that making sense. But pretty good bit of business if we can get that one done, because it'd be nice to have that bit of continuity in attack if we can get him back.
Yeah, I think he performed pretty well for us. I know, I think about half his goals were pens, but still, I thought he was pretty dangerous for us and linked up well in attack for us. So I think he'd be another string to the bow that you'd be very happy to have. And you think with some of those players and a couple of players still, on the mend returning from the ACLs, which aren't too far away, but it's probably still a couple of months away. But by the time you get Miller, Bellumi back, and then you've got you're talking Miller, Bellumi, Gelhardt, Akintola, maybe McBurney, Dala, and you got 6 or 7 look like a pretty deep forward line, and that's not even to mention like a Sellers Fleming or a Tinsdale or any of those guys, those young kids that have been coming through in preseason and helping out Kamara as well, who I forgot. So
yeah,
plenty of attacking players. Again, so there you go. So we've got heaps of depth up there if we can make it all work.
Yeah, on the outgoing, so I guess probably the key one to call out here, Mason Burstow off to Bolton on loan, which I think is going to be really positive for him. Played on the weekend for them and looked really positive in that first hour of play before he went off. I think it's going to be really important for his development, and it's one where you think, even if it doesn't end up working out for us, if he can score, 8 to 10 goals for Bolton, he could earn himself a permanent move there, pocket us a reasonable fee. I think it's best for all parties for him to be out playing week in, week out, so that'll be good for him. Loads of Tyler on loan at Doncaster as well. So it's good to see a few of our players actually out, and Matty Jacob at Reading as well, of course. So there's a few players now out on loan at League One clubs, which is actually really promising to see players getting that sort of calibre of loan and hopefully really being important for their development.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You've got to, obviously it's a little bit of sort of managing the squad, so you got to checks and balances, so to speak. But I think you're right. Some of those younger players like Burstow, who had he stayed, was probably relying on injury or a few sort of 20-minute cameos or something, isn't really best for him. So to go out on loan, I think will be good for him. And there's probably a few others that could also go back out on loan this season, depending on, I guess, how things finish off. Even someone like Kyle Joseph, if you're bringing in McBurney, and obviously you can't rely on him necessarily to play all 38 games and be there all the time, but you sort of talked about all those players that are coming into the forward line and some that are returning, and he might be one who, because he's quite young as well, would benefit from even a 6-month loan or something somewhere, to go down a league, back to League One, build up some confidence, score a hatload of goals, and come back in some form.
Yeah, Sora says here, and it's one that I sort of wouldn't be shocked if it happened. So rumours of Kamara on the way out. What's our take on it? It's as you alluded to. The number of attacking players, if we can get them all across the line, I do wonder where you look at a Gelhardt deal, for example, where you think it's almost like if we got that done, that might allow us to sanction a departure. I think if he was to go, it'd probably be on a permanent. I can't imagine us loaning him out, because at the end of the day, he was out. He had the most goal contributions in the side last season with, what was it, sort of 4 goals, 3 assists, or whatever the depressingly low tally that was. But you sort of think he had a great season in League One for Portsmouth. He did reasonably well for us last season. You'd imagine if we're going to sell him, unless he's going to I don't even know who would be a rich club in League One this season, because Birmingham and Wrexham are gone. But I suspect maybe it's a Wrexham or someone comes in for him. But I can't see us loaning him out, which would just leave a sale, and it would just mean we'd be looking to get a profit, I imagine. I can't imagine we'd sell him at a loss, given the fact he wasn't exactly a failure for us, unless he's agitating for a move to a Portsmouth or something like that, I suppose.
Didn't we? What was the fee we paid for him? Was it
maybe like 3.5, 4 million, something like that?
That's what I thought. And I was like, I just don't know if he while he was, had the highest numbers in our squad last year, as you sort of said, it wasn't a very high bar. I don't know if he's done enough to sort of secure that amount of money for us going the other way.
But then surely we just keep him. Unless he really wants out, surely we just keep him.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless, it's hard though, because you're bringing in some players that are probably going to have some pretty substantial demands. You're going to have to get some money from somewhere. So maybe you just take a hit. You're selling what you can get, squeeze what you can out of him.
But I guess this is my frustration. And it's it hasn't even played out, so I can't get frustrated at Kamara specifically. But it just feels like the club. It's almost like, oh, it's a new shiny toy. Let's spend all this money on it, and then after 6 months go, oh no, we don't want it anymore. We'll sell it at a loss, and then try and rinse and repeat. And you go, this isn't really sustainable, because you look at I don't know, who's a good example? I guess even someone like a Casey Palmer, we brought him in last summer, and already he feels like he's probably going to get pushed out if we get a couple more players in, and you think we'll probably sell him. You look at Omer, came in, didn't really get a chance under Volta, and then has really been on the outer since then. It just feels like we bring in these attacking players, don't really give them a good chance to settle and develop in the team. You look at the one time we did it, and we gave them that development, which was Tufan, and look what he turned into under Rossini. And just think, you can't just keep buying these players, giving up on them pretty quickly, and then getting rid of them. And I look at a Burstow as almost like the one player we're actually probably treating the right way, where you go, he had a reasonable run in the team last year. He looked okay, looked pretty raw. You loan him out to League One for a year. You hope he comes back into the team next year as a better player, or you sell him if you get a good fee for him. It just feels like with Kamara, it's what's the plan there? You can't spend 4 million on a player and then say, oh, well, we'll just sell him for 2 million just so that we can bring in, I don't know,
pay McBurney's wages.
Yeah, pay McBurney's wages, exactly. You can't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the right way to do it.
Yeah, but if we don't sell him for something, we'll probably let him go on a free in a couple of years anyway. That's our other specialty.
Yeah, well, and that's it. But it's also, that's right. Kamara's time with us would have been different if Bellamy wasn't injured. But then I almost wonder if that would have benefited him more if, he wasn't thrown in week after week. If we'd had Bellamy and Miller and Kamara was just coming off the bench, running at tired defenses. We saw him a few times. I think against West Brom, he came off the bench and looked really sharp. And you think, you give him that sort of season of easing in, you almost think, without those injuries, maybe we're selling a Miller this season or a Bellamy, and then Kamara is now ready to progress to being the full-time winger. And that's sort of you almost have the replacement already in the building. It just, I don't know, it just seems weird to me to sort of be we've signed them, they've been okay, not terrible, not great, and now we're just going to take a loss on them. It's just well, what's the point of signing? What was the plan?
Yeah, was there a plan? Who knows? But I guess on the Miller Bellamy situation in Kamara, so I guess that would have been, I think that would have been a real tough sort of position to find yourself in, with two players that Bellamy particularly in form, and Miller I think sort of was close to working himself back to his best when they got injured, and then suddenly Kamara, who had come in and certainly would have been there to fight for his spot, but then thrown in, and I guess a lot of pressure then placed on his shoulders as suddenly the people that he's replacing were both sort of producing, in those early stages of the season. So it was it's all obviously all hypotheticals and ifs, ands, or buts at this point, but I don't envy coming into that position. But yeah, look, it's been a very busy transfer window, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what that lineup looks like for the Coventry game.
Yes. Well, maybe just before we touch on the Coventry game, I get your predictions for the season, just at a high level. Who are you thinking player of the season, top goal scorer, and where do you think we'll finish the season?
Okay, so player of the season, I think it's gonna be really hard. assuming he stays fit, to go past someone like Charlie Hughes. I just think he was, in the short time that he was has been with us, he has really stepped up and showed, his qualities and capabilities. He's going to be, he's our Harry Maguire. If we get to manage to keep him through all of this season, then I can see him moving for a pretty decent fee next window, or next year, sorry, next season. But I'd say him for player of the season. But there's a bunch of the new guys that I'd be pretty happy to see do well as well. But then what was it? What, top goal scorer?
Top goal scorer, yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. Because it's there's the two of the names that are in my head are the ones that aren't necessarily technically through the door yet. So
you can do a what do you call it? You can do like a contingent prediction. You can say, like, for instance, McBurney, if he signs, and if not, who you think?
It probably would be McBurney if he signs. I don't think he'll be. I still don't think it'll be a 20 goal sort of a season, but I think his experience and his strength and stuff in the box, I think will be quite good. And if he doesn't come, then this is more just hopeful. But then I'll go Carl Joseph as a hopeful prediction that he really gets going this season.
Yeah, nice. I actually had the same player for player of the season and top goal scorer, which is Balumi for both of them. Sort of, again, it's sort of, I guess, optimistic thinking. I'm just thinking, like, if he can get back to full fitness and have a really good season, I'd be backing him. And then where do you think we'll finish the season?
I really don't know. I actually feel like I have no idea, because at the end of last season, I was certain I knew that it was going to be really bad and we were going to finish, we'd be aiming for 20th again, or sort of like that sort of deal. But now with this preseason, the new manager, and everyone seems really confident and still making signings, and seemingly some quality ones. I just don't know. And I'm just going to go for the optimistic again. Let's just go wild. Let's go optimistic. Let's go big. We go big or go home, right? And let's go for 6th.
Wow. Okay.
Let's go real big.
I 3 days ago, or whatever it was, 2 days ago, when I did the To Hull and Back podcast, I said 20th, and I thought that was actually being optimistic by saying not going down. But I think you're right. Like, I think with each day, almost that optimism grows as more deals get done. Pre-season was successful. It feels as if there's a bit of stability and optimism coming back to the club now. Obviously, we'll see what happens with this appeal with the EFL in the next few days. Like, it could go one of two ways. It could be really great, and all of a sudden we go, okay, we're back to normal, everything's fine, or everything's a bit on shaky ground again. And of course, like, we could have, I don't know, someone gets sold in the, like a Panda could get sold. I don't want to curse. I'm not hoping for anything, but like something bad could happen in terms of player sales that could flip everything again. But hopefully that's not the case. So I'm not going to will it into existence. But look, all we can do is judge things on where they're at the moment. It does seem to be quite positive. So let's talk Coventry, who actually, I mean, I was sort of trepidatious coming into this one, and then I've been seeing a lot of Coventry fans are themselves quite negative on their pre-season because they haven't really signed anyone. They've signed Kessler Hayden off Aston Villa, who was at Preston on loan last season. And they've also signed Carl Rushworth on loan from Brighton, who, of course, only played, 2 games for us amidst a whole bunch of injuries. But apparently he's looked pretty poor in pre-season. Kessler Hayden's out injured. A couple of their first-choice players are not looking great. I think their striker, I don't know if it was Wright or whoever the striker was, weren't looking too good in pre-season either. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for them at the moment. And obviously, made the playoff semi-finals last season under Lampard, so would be hoping for similar, if not better, this season. It seems I suppose in a way it's a good time to get them if they're looking pretty shaky after their pre-season. And, kind of a good test, I suppose, in that sense. I mean, like we were sort of saying, you could have a really positive pre-season and we could go out and lose 3-0 to Coventry and you suddenly go, oh, okay, back to reality. But potentially it's a chance for a pretty positive result and we kind of get that surge of optimism continuing.
Yeah, I think I'm actually really looking forward to the game on the weekend. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to watch it, but it's I mean, obviously, like, it's just the new season excitement, but I think I'm really keen to see, obviously, like the play style, the new players, it all come together, and I think it's a good opportunity to get, I guess, get the season started, get some monkeys off the back, get that first win at home. Some of those things could be real good, just to get out of the way nice and early.
Yeah. Now we sort of touched on it before, but do you have a thought on starting 11 for this game? I feel like there's been a lot of chopping and changing in the squad. Any sense of, and admittedly, neither of us having watched preseason games, so don't necessarily know how players have been performing in preseason, but what's your sense, or what would you like to see?
Obviously, kind of, I guess I think probably something as far as I'm going to go as far as I can with this. So it'll be obviously pandering goals. I think it will go Giles, Hughes, Semi, Drame across the backs.
Yeah.
Probably like Slater, Crooks, and Lundstrom, I guess, probably in the mids. And then Kamara, Joseph, and I don't know. It kind of depends. I'll put Akintola there for the moment, but kind of depends. Because I think if Gelhardt signed, then he'd probably start, and maybe like potentially the same with McBurney. But I guess it depends on their fitness and stuff and where they sort of fit in. But something like that sort of 11, I think, and then with guys like Ndala to come off the bench, and Ndala, Palmer, some of those is probably Williams maybe on the bench as well.
I kind of lost track of Williams because I don't know if we've actually offered him a deal yet, but I know after the last friendly,
I thought they said we had or we were going to.
Yeah, well, so I thought we were going to, but I don't think we've seen anything official by the club. So keep an eye on that one as well, because that would be another interesting addition for a couple of reasons. I feel like that's probably a pretty similar lineup to what I'd be expecting to see, which kind of goes to show like it's actually in a lot of ways a much stronger 11 than we were putting out towards the end of last season. Like Alzate is probably the big loss going to Atlanta in the US from that midfield. Puerta, we haven't even touched on Puerta and Laloui, the Moroccan signing either, because we don't really know what's going on with those two. But you think like midfield
that makes no sense to me. Sorry, I just don't understand how those deals can be like we're told they're not getting ratified and we're not allowed to do those, but then like they're then allowing us to make all of these other deals.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
so what's going on with that? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
because like presumably they're training with us, but then you think if they're not our players, do they go back to their former clubs? Like, do they have to just immediately get sold on? Like, it's very weird situation.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
like it's a strong midfield.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Like that defense feels stronger. It's a strong midfield, and it feels like, especially if we get McBurney in up top, that's a really potent front three as well. So it actually starts to look like quite a strong side. So we'll have to see how we go with that one. And before we just wrap things up, score prediction.
Let's go 2-0. 2-0 victory. And we'll start positive with clean sheet, home win, first league win for Jakirovic, like just the whole lot.
Very confident. I think I'll stick with my prediction from the weekend. I'll say 1-1. It feels like look, a 1-1 result I'd still take and see that as a massive win given where we've been. I think it'll be a really good start to the season. Yeah, 9:30 p.m. here in Australia to watch that one. So it's a nice friendly time zone for us. I will be running City to Surf the next day, so I'll see how much of the game I can get through before I fall asleep. But yeah, just a massive thank you to you for jumping on for this one, back for our final season.
Yeah, no worries. It's a pleasure to fit it in amongst all of the craziness that life is throwing at me.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we've just been saved by the bell right on the end. It was a very well-timed podcast in that sense. And thank you everyone for listening. And thanks for those that watched along live, chucked comments in the YouTube comments. It's always good fun having people commenting along as we record this. So very much thank you to you guys as well. And thank you everyone for listening in. We will be back this time next week to review the Coventry game and look ahead to the next couple of games. But until then, come on, City.